Thank you. Hare Krishna, Mataji. Hare Krishna to all the devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances and Dandavat Pranam. Thank you very much for joining the Bhakti Vaibhava course Fast Track, session 14. This has been organized by the Radha Govinda Temple, ISKCON, Kulai, Mangaluru. And I invite you indeed for and on behalf of His Grace, Sri Ramanista Das Prabhuji. Today we are going to discuss chapter 10 and we shall begin with the prayers. Prayers are very important because it actually gives us the blessings, the mercy and kripa of the Lord who will allow us to understand the real meaning of the message that he has sent. It's very important to understand the message ultimately because we do learn and understand and try to understand everything simply because we want to put them into practice. Learning without practice doesn't carry any meaning at all. So it's going to be chapter 10, part of it, between 16 to 26 verses. The name of the chapter, of course, is Departure of the Lord Krishna for Dwarka. That means he is departing from Hastinapur. Please keep your mute button on when we are saying our prayers. Om Ajnanutimirandasya Gnananjanushalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Sabitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swatantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavasya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagara Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Advaitam Savadutam Pariyasaitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagaralita Shri Vishakhanvitasya He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Smano Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advait Gadadhara Srivas Gaur Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna to all the devotees. I again welcome you to the class. Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, is mainly consisting of three areas of discussion. Just to recollect, the first 6 questions were asked by sages at Naimisharanya, which were led by Saunaka Rishi, and they were answered by Sutta Goswami in the first 3 chapters. Chapter 4 to 7 is the history of Srimad Bhagavatam, wherein we learn in chapter 4, 5, and 6 how Narada Muni meets and visits Vyasadeva, being his spiritual master, discusses the issues of dissatisfaction and ultimately gives solution to write Srimad Bhagavatam. He insisted on having Krishna Katha and pastimes of Lord Krishna more in detail with the detail of Bhakti Marg or devotional service and ultimately detailed description to go back to Godhead. This goes on until verse 11 of chapter 7, and from verse 12 of chapter 7 onwards until chapter 19. Though it mainly includes the history of Maharaj Parikshit, his birth, activities, and deliverance of King Parikshit. It also includes chapters wherein the Krishna leaves Hastinapur and Krishna reaches Dwarka. It also includes some parts of Dhritarashtra leaving his body and Pandavas retiring and Lord Krishna completing his pastimes and going back to his abode of Goloka Vrindavan. We are right now in a phase where Krishna is living for Dwarka. And so we are going to see all the incidences that is happening in Hastinapur from where he is living. Separation is always painful. Unions are always happy events. But anything that unites always ends up in separation. Because unions are always for a purpose. And when the purpose is met with, the separation comes in. We are talking about similar such separation of Lord from people of Hastinapur. If you look at the chapter 10 summary, so that you can relocate to the section that we are going into, first 6 verses describes the kingdom of Maharaj Yudhishthir. Maharaj Yudhishthir being bestowed with the kingdom and made the king of the entire planet. You know the end of the war at Kurukshetra. And only few people survived on the Kuru side. One of them was Vidura, who did not participate in the war and went to pilgrimage. Another was Balram, who again objected and didn't participate in the war. On the Pandava side, all 5 Pandavas, their wives survived, though their children died, except Maharaj Parikshit, who had been in the womb of Uttara, wife of Abhimanyu, son of Arjun. And thus, the description here mainly describes a very opulent successful, and good running of kingdom by Yudhishthir, who believes that he is just a servant of the people of the kingdom and the agent of Lord Krishna, and so he would follow the instructions passed on by Lord Krishna. 7 to 14 verses describe the intensity of Lord Krishna's attractive influence. This description goes vividly into describing an undescribable beauty of Lord Krishna and how attractive he is for everyone, including everyone. This is where now our main topic begins from verse 16. 15 and 16 verses describe the honoring of Lord Krishna by people who he was supporting. That's the Pandavas and all the people of Hastinapur. It goes further from 20 to 31 verses, wherein ladies of Hastinapur discusses the Lord's glories. In the good Vedic time, ladies were always isolated from men for a good purpose, that they would be able to grow and still being protected very well by manfolk. The mixing of the ladies and the men would only be occasional with restrictions, so the progeny and the well-being and health of the society persist well and doesn't become like the society that we all are facing at the moment. This is the society that we are in, where the hegemony of money and sex is going on elsewhere all around us, and that produces what we call kind of a Varna Shankar Praja. So here is a description of their discussion of the glories of the Lord, and thereafter the discussion is going on, wherein the Lord ultimately proceeds to Dwarka. So we have a chunk that we are going to take over from 15 to almost 31. We will stop at 26 reasonably, so that 27 onwards can be picked up by the next speaker tomorrow. Detailed descriptions are now given about this chapter, wherein our concern is mainly from 15 to 19 and 20 to 31. 15 to 19 verses describe Lord Krishna was appropriately honored and their description, whereas from 20 to 31, as we saw, ladies of Hastinapur describing the glories of Lord Krishna. So these are the two main subjects that we are going to discuss this hour. Sorry, give me a minute. In the verses between 15 and 19, is description of Lord Krishna being honored. In his honor, each and every one came to meet and greet him. While he was going, many people were already feeling the symptoms of separation. As I said, Krishna being very attractive, the ladies of Hastinapur had all fallen in love with him, and they never wanted him to leave. However, they ultimately were watching him go from the terraces of the buildings and the palaces of the Hastinapur. They were among themselves discussing the glories of the Lord. So there are two things going on at the same time. The man form is actually honoring Lord Krishna with musical instruments, flowers, shower of flowers, umbrellas, fans, and brahmanas giving their benediction to Lord Krishna. As Krishna is living, it takes permission from the Pandavas, whose guest he was, and thus he has different reactions with each Pandavas. He bows down with Yudhishthira at the Yudhishthira's feet to take his blessings because Yudhishthira has been like an elder brother to Lord Krishna. Here he gives an indication that Arjuna and Bhima are his friends, and their elder brother, is also his elder brother. In return, Yudhishthira embraces him and gives him blessings and provides him with the army, and he himself goes right up to the chariot of the Lord to make him comfortable seat in the chariot. Of course, while doing that, before that he insists on him to spend some more time before he leaves. But Krishna had made up his mind to go. Krishna then takes leave of his two friends, Arjuna and Bhimsen. Friends when they depart, friends who are of the same age, who have spent their childhood together, who have played right from a small childhood, spent time together, ate together, slept together, and exchanged every innocent small thing to each other without realizing that Krishna is the Lord and they are insignificant but devotees of the Lord. However, all three have been very fortunate, and Lord has always bestowed his best feelings for Arjuna and then for Bhimsen. They embrace each other, vows for each other, gives benedictions and blessings to each other, and good wishes exchanged. The other two Pandavas, being younger brother, they bow down at the lotus feet of the Lord, take the blessings of the Lord, and bow down again and again. The exchange of the flowers, showers of the flowers, umbrella, fans, etc., also came along from the people of Hastinapur because Lord Krishna had been pivotal in looking after Arjuna's chariot and winning of the Kurukshetra war. In spite of 11 Akshauhini Sena and Pandavas having only 7 Akshauhini Sena, in spite of all the major warriors who are time tested, like Dronacharya, Bhishma Pitama, etc., there are several of them that you can name, were on the Kauravas side, whereas only Arjuna was on the side of Pandavas. In spite of this great imbalance between the warring armies, the victory was snatched from the hands of Kauravas single-handedly by the actions and advice of Lord Krishna to Arjuna and Pandavas in general. So all the people of people of Hastinapur were showing their respect, their gratitude, and their feeling for Lord Krishna. The verses 20 to 31 are the verses which describes the glories of the Lord described by ladies of Hastinapur. It's a pleasant breaking down of these glories in as nutshell as possible. The ladies of Hastinapur are very lucky that they are having great darshanas of Lord Krishna. They had the fortune of living in the same city where the Lord Krishna lived. And for the royal ladies, it was the same palace that they were sharing with Lord Krishna. Verse number 20 mainly describes the pleasing talks. And these pleasing talks are more attractive than even the Vedic hymns. The description of the words used and the words used poetically and romantically are so pleasing, used by the ladies of the Hastinapur and especially the royal ladies, where they were very attractive, even better than the Vedic hymns. This probably is the description of anybody's glory's description, probably at the highest level. Verses 21 to 22 emphasizes that Krishna is the original personality of the Godhead, empowers Prakriti for recreation. What it means is Lord is actually the cause of all the causes in the material world. We all know that the material world is created, maintained, and destroyed by the Lord time and again. And we know that Prakriti is created by the Lord. Prakriti is maintained and annihilated again by the Lord. But he doesn't have to do that everything himself. Lord appoints people who work for him, and thus the creation of Sarga and Visarga is done by Mahavishnu. Maintenance and destruction are done by Brahma and Shiva. I'm sorry, the creation is done by the Brahma, maintenance is done by the Vishnu, and Shiva or Mahesh does the annihilation. But all of them require the will of the Lord, the permission of the Lord. Without his will and permission, nothing happens. Even at the beginning of the creation, when the Lord ultimately shows his glance to the Mahatattva, that's when all the seeds of impregnation are planted in the Mahatattva for the living entity, wherein the Kala and the destiny enters with karmas of all the living entities. In short, they are describing in detail that how the creation occurs, that's again the Lord, and how he is the original personality of the Godhead. Verse 23 and 24 describes the devotees are actually experiencing Lord's form and his pastimes. This categorically nullifies those who believe that Lord has no form and Lord is impersonal. So it is certainly description against the believers of impersonalist and Mayavadis. Lord definitely has a form. He is a person, and a person with whom you can develop a relationship. You can develop a bhava, a prema, and ultimately a relationship that flows what is known as mellows or rasas, and experience those mellows and rasas with the Lord in all five forms, either of the neutrality, of the servitude, of the friendship, of the parental love, or a conjugal love. So, Lord is a person. Brahman realization that was considered at times by a final realization is nothing but an effulgence of the Lord, and this effulgence comes from his body. It's also known as Brahma Jyoti, and it is a dazzling light that blinds your eyes. And if it blinds your eyes, you can't see the Lord from where the effulgence is coming. And that's why Kunti Rani is praying that please take your effulgence away from my eyes so that I can see you. So these 2-3 verses describes in detail about the Lord's pastimes and Lord as a person. Each and every glories are attractive and they are going systematically. First telling us in the verses 21-22, that Lord is the ultimate God figure, Lord Krishna, and then describing that Lord Krishna is the creator of this material manifestation, maintainer and distractor. Subsequently, it goes and describes that Lord is a personal form and that he has his original pastimes. So that when discussions are also very methodical, that reflects the ladies of the Hastinapur, how qualified, learned, and realized souls they were. So you can understand that rather than taking birth in the time of Kali like us, they have been at the time when the Lord was present on earth. And so certainly they are all realized souls living with the Lord. Verse number 25 describes Lord's descent or incarnation or avatara on the planet Earth and the purpose of descent. The simple purpose of descent is very elaborately described in Bhagavad Gita to annihilate miscreants, to help the devotees, to reclaim the devotees who are realized and re-establish the principles of religion again. Lord does this by taking birth on earth, but he comes with his own spiritual body, with his own divine body. This is a transcendental body, and this body is quite different than the body that we all are aware about. He doesn't need to take birth because he comes along with his body. Our body is actually a covering to the soul. The soul is covered by sukshma, subtle body, and by gross body. The soul doesn't do anything but gets everything done by the subtle and the gross bodies. Lord's body, being a divine transcendental body, is never a covering. It's the spiritual soul itself. Thus we say that our soul is just a spark, where the Lord is like a huge fire. That's the difference of quantum of material in us and in the Lord. Our bodies are material, and being material, they are destroyed as the time goes. And it needs to be formed, and thus a child needs to be born. Lord's body, being the same body, is eternal and made up of only a spiritual material. The considerable difference that we understand very easily are the senses. Lord's senses, any sense can do any function, whereas our senses are being regulated by devatas or Adhisthata Dev. And for that matter, each sense needs a sitting devata there for it to function. And thus they can only function one particular part of the life. Eyes can only see, ears can only Sorry, eyes can only see, ears can only hear, tongue can only feel the taste of the food. If you want in one sense to do all the functions, you need the adhisthata devata of all the functions that you need to do in one sense, which practically is not possible. So look at the inadequacies of our physical body that we owe against the divine spiritual body of the Lord. And this is the description that has been given here. Can you just give me 1 minute, please? Thank you, and I apologize for that. So, God has been incarnating time and again to maintain or establish or re-establish the principles of religion, heal the miscreants, and protect the devotees. That has been described in verse 25. 26 to 30 verses. Now that we are talking, I'll just tell you the superficial part of it and leave rest of the thing for tomorrow. Yadu dynasty, Mathura, Dwarka, Queen, and Gopis are said to be glorious. And in the 31st verse, Lord smiles and accepts the greetings. Ladies of Hastinapur have been describing glories of the Lord so wonderfully that Lord smiles. Lord's smile is so beautiful, so mesmeric, and so hypnotic that once seen, if we look at that smile, I'm sure we all would faint. We have never even imagined what smile that would be. Let's get on further. We are now describing important messages given in 4 verses. The human civilization as conceived by the sages of India is described in text 16. And the main theme is that there is a restricted mixing of women and men in Vedic civilization. Now, verse 16 is where we actually begin. This is the purport written by Srila Prabhupada. The logo had been that a woman's best jewelry is her shyness. Shyness is a particular extra natural beauty of the fair sex. This shyness is a gift of nature to the fair sex, and it enhances their beauty and prestige, even if they are of the less important family or even if they are less attractive. At times, the attractiveness comes from the behavior of a person. And this is a typical example that women always get upgradation with the shyness, even if they are less attractive or they are coming from a less affluent family. We have practical experience of this fact. A sweeper woman commanded the respect of many respectable gentlemen simply by manifesting a lady's shyness. Srila Prabhupada has been always a very straight speaker. He had never ever been afraid of saying spade a spade, and thus we consider him our guru because he would upfront tell you if you are wrong, and also if you are right, whatever it is will be told to you on your face. Half naked ladies in the streets do not command any respect, but a shy sweeper's wife commands respect from all. Human civilization, as conceived of by the sages of India, is to help one free himself from the clutches of illusion. Srila Prabhupada has been explaining the Vedic rules and regulations given in the various scriptures and as injunctions, where to meet and where not to mix with the man for the ladies. It has been the culture of the Indian societies that ladies would meet very freely with their household men for. They would never be that free with any other man for from outside the house. However, they would be very respectful to the elders and to other relatives, closer or far. And at large, they would be only simply a very respectful lady, but they would never talk with people whom they don't know and would never mix with them in any case. These restricted mixing of women and men had created an ideal Vedic civilization where the basic functioning of a marriage institution would survive and flourish. What happens in the Western society where freedom is the logo, the mixing has been extensive. The man and women, virtually knowing or unknown, still meet and mix. This at times leads to wrong feeling of affections, falling in love in the wrong place, and falling and having paramours. That certainly gives a chance for a society where women may get conceived by people other than in their marriage. And that creates what is known as Varna Shankar Praja. This has always caused a great disturbance in the society at large. If the family is disturbed, family is a small unit of the society. Society certainly gets disturbed, and that leads to a nation ultimately, which is made up of many, many societies. With the disturbed societies, a nation gets disturbed. and that disturbed nation doesn't function normally. The blessings of the Lord also gets restricted, and that leads to what is known as scarcity of the grains and the food because the rain becomes infrequent, scarcity, and falls irregularly at irregular places. You need a regular rain at all the places in a regular amount. If there is too much of rain, that creates flood. If there is too little rain, that creates drought. And so the creation of the food grain is in the hands of the Lord. And if the grains are not enough for everyone to feed, there would certainly be great quarrels leading to ultimately to a nation with infightings and riots. A small thing, getting a Varna Shankar children, leads to this much of disaster. And obviously, your society, your family, and the nation is not blessed by the Lord. So it leads to even further disturbances of such droughts and such floods. This is just an example Srila Prabhupada is saying about the Vedic way of mixing of the women and the man. We should not misunderstand this as the weakness of the woman. Women in our religion and in our philosophy have been considered to be the mainstay or the stem of the family. They are the one who actually keeps the family stable and survive whatever crisis comes in. And thus, if you look at it, all the best departments are given to the goddesses. Lakshmi, Saraswati, Durga. Durga is a warrior, Saraswati is education, Lakshmi Devi is the finance minister. So all the best portfolios which really directly concerns the survival of the family is with the goddesses. And for that matter, man gets very few such good portfolios, if at all they get it. So don't consider these as a weakness when they are saying mixing is to be restricted. But in a way, it is a protection offered by men who are either in the form of a son, husband, or a father to their women for who are otherwise vulnerable. This is the way it should be taken rather than embarking on the discussion that it is against the freedom of the ladies. It is not. We are going little further into it in the verse 16. Therefore, the conclusion is that the spirit spark is beautiful, and because of the soul's beauty, one is attracted by the beauty of the outward body. The Vedic wisdom, therefore, forbids us to be attracted by false beauty. But because we are now in the darkness of ignorance, the Vedic civilization allows very restricted mixing of women and men. Therefore, they may be brought together only when it is necessary. In the same purport, Srila Prabhupada even goes further and says that men and women are similar to a butter and the fire. You can't bring butter to the fire or fire to the butter because that only creates the disaster. Ladies of the Hastinapur begins to glorify the Lord from the rooftops, and this has been described in little more detail that we'll go through. Hmm. I would like someone to read this. Any volunteer?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Simply we have tried to explain Krishna, nothing but Krishna. Just like we are presenting so many books about Krishna, simply we have tried to explain Krishna with all these translations, nothing but Krishna. How to understand Krishna? So here it is called Saraswati Mano Haraha. Krishna is very pleasing to hear. Krishna is the reservoir of all pleasure. When we get our attachment for hearing about Krishna, then at least we can consider that we have become free from material contaminations. Contamination. When we get attachment simply for hearing Krishna, nothing else, all nonsense, then you should understand that you have become liberated. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.10.20.
Thank you, Mother. Thank you. Krishna is a real, he has lots of glories. Besides the six standard differences that he is all beautiful, all strength, all power, all opulences, all money, and renunciation. These are the six things that he has. Beyond that, he is very beautiful. His complexions are unusual, and his features are outstanding. That has all been described here by Srila Prabhupada in describing the glories which are described by the ladies in the rooftops of the Hastinapur. Krishna's glories have been described at many places, and subsequently you will see those glories in third canto, so well described that people even today meditate upon those features described in the third canto. Ultimately, we all need to see that we have our bhakti done. And the shortest route is a three-way route of sadhana bhakti. Sadhana bhakti has a Vaidhi and the spontaneous part. Spontaneous part is Raganuga, and the one which is similar to the Rajavasis is Ragatmika Bhakti, and then Bhava Bhakti and Prema Bhakti. Bhav is the Rati that develops, and the development of Rati is influenced by the appearance and the form of the Lord. And the Prema is influenced mainly by the Lord's pastimes. And thus, if you keep hearing Lord's Katha, what we call Krishna Katha, with detailed descriptions of his form and features, you will gradually develop a rati, above, and prema. And prema is a stage when the prema reaches to a level where the exchange of mallows or rases begins. And that's where the bhakti culminates into the highest level of perfection. We all desire that stage, but that stage comes only with the loving, transcendental, devotional service, which is ahaitukik and apratihata. Ahaitukik means without any rewards, and apratihata, it is continuous without any break. That is what we all aim at, and that is what we all desire, for which we need to look at the glories described by other devotees, understand them well, and then meditate upon it to develop the faith, to develop the bhava and prema. It's the same heading in the second part, wherein the ladies of Hastinapur begins to glorify Lord to find out what Krishna does. He creates, maintains, and destroys. Why Krishna comes? He fulfills the desires of the living entities by giving them false names and forms. Also gives scriptures to guide them. Why we need to know the detail about Lord and his glorification is not just to please him. If you know, suppose I want to go and find building A, I must know all about that building, how it looks like, where is it, what it does, and how would it present to me, or how would I present to that building. So you need all the know-how and knowledge about the person to identify a person. When we start doing our bhakti, we must know all about Lord Krishna, and that can be known by Shravanam and Patanam, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and other scriptures like Nectar of Devotion, Madhurya Kadambini, etc., etc. But you must know the detail of the features so that you can identify when you meet him. Unless you know that, you will not be able to identify Lord Krishna. So even if you are lucky by his mercy, if he comes and shows himself, unless you are aware about him, knowing everything about him, you will not be able to identify him, and then the whole thing will go a waste. So it's very scientific by even our material standard that we learn more and more about Lord Krishna. We learn more and more about Lord Krishna's Katha. We learn more and more about Krishna's pastimes, and then we would be able to certainly identify him, and given the chance, we'll be able to converse and serve him. This is the reason it has been described here why the ladies of Hastinapur glorifies Lord Krishna and exchanges views about Lord Krishna by looking at him from rooftop. This actually is a nutshell message from 16 to 26 verses that we get for Lord Krishna. Any question, any doubts, evaluation, any addition, any queries, please go ahead.
Prabhuji, I have a question. I mean, I don't know how, it's a stupid question about. Now, then everywhere, not only in your lecture, everywhere, butter and fire, it's compared like, the proximity of a male and a female, it's compared to that. But my question is, it's the fire that converts the butter into ghee, is it not, Prabhuji?
Come again, Mataji?
The butter, it is the fire that converts the butter into ghee. So we can't say that always the butter and fire are to be kept away, because without fire, butter can't become ghee.
Yes, certainly. I think you are giving a further revelation, and I'm happy that you said this. If an appropriate fire is touched to the butter, you can get a ghee. And that's what Srila Prabhupada does when he gets devotees marry with each other and produce Krishna conscious children. But if you bring butter to a wrong fire at a wrong time, you end up butter getting dissolved. I'm not saying who is butter and who is fire.
Yeah.
Yes, Mataji, thank you very much. That was a good revelation. Yes, it is.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Any other question? Okay, if there are no questions, let us spend few more minutes by some additional bonus that we must get. We all are now used to the free things and bonus, right? So let's see what we have. These are the sanskaras, and very commonly we are all asked about sanskaras. So we have totally Vedic 16 sanskaras. It begins from Garbhadharan sanskara and it ends into Antyeshti, or tying you on the last journey to cremation. These are the sanskaras that are described here. If you want to note it down, there are 16 numbers totally of all the sanskaras. Pumsavana, Sumantam Dhyana, Jata Karma, Nama Karma, Namkarana, Nisha Karmana, Annaparsham, Chuda Karma, and Karnavida Vidya, then Upanayana, Vedarambha, Vedarambha, Samavartanam, Vivaha Karma, Vanaprastha, Sannyasa, and lastly Antyeshti. These are the 16 karmas that we all go through during our life, especially Brahmanas. If we are not Brahmana, then few of the sanskaras are not there for us, like Upanayana and Vedarambha. They are not there for other varnas. And I think you know this Panchagavya, when we call it Panchamruta, is made up of milk of the cow, curd of the cow, urine and dung of the cow, and mixed with the cow's ghee. So this shows how important the cow is in our Vedic religion and science. If you look at it, everywhere there is go, and go is Mata. Maybe it is Godavari, Govinda, Godhuli. Everywhere, the guy is always the first one to be there. We worship the guy, and one guy always gives us the life and sustaining of the life, and at the end helps us even cremate our body. So this is the Panchagavya. I thought I would share with you these two things before we depart. Any other question, any other queries that you come across or you remember, you can still go ahead. We have some time left.
Mr. Prabhuji, we haven't got the attendance form, I think.
Beg your pardon?
It is already shared, Prabhuji. Attendance. Prabhuji is asking about the attendance. Already shared twice, Prabhuji.
I'm not getting it.
I didn't get it, Prabhuji.
Did you join late, Mataji? Because it was shared at the
Yeah,
beginning.
yeah,
And
I
then
joined a little late. I had some internet issue. I joined late, Prabhuji.
I was there from the beginning, but I didn't get it.
Then, okay, share it.
No, Prabhuji has already posted around 8:30. Again, they will put no problem.
Prabhu, there's a request that we will not be posting attendance multiple times because the reason is we are seeing people entering exactly at the time of attendance. So we've been told to, sort of space attendance, at any random time between 8 to 9:30. So, and the two, I think our Mohandas Prabhu is posting it twice, if I'm right. So we'll do it today if you all wish, but then tomorrow onwards, please be in time and stay through the session. Otherwise, we won't be able to relish the course. Forget about the exam or the certificate, but we need to draw the meaning of Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna.
Also, Mataji, yesterday, a day before yesterday, Mataji told me, why you're behind the attendance? It's just break my flow.
Yeah, Aishwarya Mataji was mentioning that. That's true.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, brother.
Prabhuji, I have a question. You would say it's silly because one of the younger generation person was asking me that why do women compete with men and men don't compete with women in any phases of life in the name of liberation or independence in today's contemporary society? Because while doing internship, he observed that more women are taking to smoking, drinking, and all vices, just trying to speak up like men, to move higher in the, I would say, organizational structure or at workplace. They are becoming more and more competitive with men. They want to prove that I am better rather than men. His observation is that men are not so much into competing with women the way women are competing with men. So like I was not able to give any answer to satisfy his anxiousness or curiosity. And they are very quickly picking up of vices because in between you have breaks like tea, coffee, vaping breaks, or some, they are resorting to all kind of negativities also, and they are more career conscious, don't want to get married, don't want to be, they want to enjoy their freedom, and they don't want to bear children. And obviously he says men can't do that if they don't want to, like that choice is only with the women, they want to bear children or not. So why the society is suddenly changing into that format where women, given freedom, they are resorting to that kind of independence in the name of freedom? Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Sorry if I...
No problem. Now, there are two things that I must mention before I answer your question. Don't ever think that whatever you are asking is silly. There is nothing silly really. Everything is important, and it is important, and that's why you are asking. Number two, the marriage institution lasts if there is a comfortable coexistence of men and women. Coexistence means having a love, affection, and sharing everything that comes along in the institute of marriage. If we consider the life as a whole, there are equal burdens given to both the parties. And that's why in our Indian philosophy, we describe men and women as two wheels of the chariot. If one wheel breaks, chariot never runs. So both the wheels are equally important. The duties given to both of them cannot be same, because if there are same duties, then there cannot be two wheels. There will be a chariot with one wheel, because the duties will double up. And that's why there are two sets of duties that are created, one for men, one for women. But understand one thing, that marriage institution always requires love, affection, and tolerance. If there is no tolerance, I can find 10 faults with anyone or anyone that you present to me. Similarly, anybody can find 10 faults from me. It is the way of accommodating those 10 faults, either by correcting them, accepting them, or surmounting them. How you do is your maturity that you have been taught during your upbringing, that you understand and do it. Now, these are the basic gospels of the marriage institution. If you look at it, women used to be at home and man was going out to the world for earning and sustaining the family. Though the role of the man was looking outwardly very strong and combating, and that whatever he does is of a great value, the value certainly had been equal with the women who were running the family and the house. And thus, if you really consider non-marital monetary value, both of them have been equally investing in the family life in the value sense. However, women started feeling that their contribution is considered less and less, and man's contribution is being praised and considered more valuable. Again, this is a perception. No one says that, but everyone perceives in their own way. If women consider that their contribution is considered of lesser value, they would try and do all that man does for trying to feel that their contribution is equal to that man, and so their contribution now is more. Mataji, am I talking a lot of abstract or is it understanding?
Prabhuji, it is understanding. But
Okay.
the women are claiming these days that I am independent, this is my body, I will
Yeah.
decide.
Yeah,
You
I'm
can't
coming to
decide
that.
my clothing and all like that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So now what happens is there are two things that come up. Once you rebel, you go into the areas where you are not supposed to. And thus, women are going to the areas where the men are. And number two, you also rebel in the way that you are functioning. You want to do things which you otherwise don't do. And you don't want to do things which otherwise you are supposed to do. This is the way any rebellion occurs. And thus, women have started realizing that production of the child is only they can do it. So probably they can pressurize. Wearing clothes, smoking cigars, drinking alcohol, misbehaving in front of relatives are becoming common incidences with the younger generation, or at least that's what I have been told. And these are all as a result of these breaking marriage institution. If you do not know, and this occurs in the women who are, though they are feeling they are liberated, open-minded, and thinking, a great thinker, they are actually not. You go to Switzerland, and there 90% of the women are still looking after the household, and they say that running of a household is much more important and much more valuable than earning few bucks here and there. And they believe in it as well. So, though it is considered an advancement, I feel that it is a regression. And we are going from a very nice and beautiful Indian society where all the men were always respected. I have seen in my childhood how our women in the family were respected and were always being accorded with due respect all the time. I never felt that my father was more important than my mother. But this younger generation, I think, is going on a wrong direction. You are producing children not only for yourself, it is for the family, including your husband. Family includes the father and mothers of both spouses. It includes even further all the relatives. And one does something they are doing for not only the spouse, but also for the father and mothers on both sides and relatives on both the families. So anything that has been done by a woman has a great repercussion on this entire family institution and the two big families and their relatives. And so they have to be more careful, better. And it is a bad race, I'll tell you, by smoking cigarette or drinking alcohol, nothing good comes out. If man is doing it, we consider that as bad as well. And that's why eventually everybody leaves the cigarette, leaves alcohol as they grow old, they realize. But it is your wrong selection. Wrong selection by younger generation happens in many fields, and this is one of the core fields which I consider is wrong. Logically, personally, and by all standards, it's all wrong. Does that make some sense, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji, definitely it makes sense. And what
Thank
I
you.
personally feel is that while we have joined you'll see that here maximum devotees are women only who are attending and spreading Krishna consciousness comparative to men. But still,
Yes.
there is such an
Yes.
ironical situation in contemporary modern society, especially in metros.
Yes, that's true. See, women, if you look at it, the biological way also, women are very great in their devotions. Man, to become a devotee, really he has to work very hard. If I have become a devotee, I have to really work on my emotions, get it more and more inflated so that I understand the feelings. In the whole life, I have never paid much attention to the emotions of others or feelings of others. I had been having a behavior like a businessman that, okay, what do you want? What needs to be done? And we do it. So women are advantageous that they can devote. They devote to their children, they devote to their husbands, they devote to their parents, and so they can easily devote to Krishna also. Whereas that devotion is not very easy for men, and that's why they are at a great disadvantage. And that may be one of the reasons why you don't see many men in the temple. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for wonderful explanation. Thank you, Prabhuji. Sadar Pranam, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. All the good words and explanations that you like are the words and explanations of acharyas, gurus, and Srila Prabhupada. And any mistake that has occurred is my mistake. Apologize it, kindly correct it, and
Prabhuji, you're muted. Hare Krishna, Prabhu, you got muted. Dr. Prakash Parekh, Prabhu. I think we lost signal. Yeah. We'll just wait for a minute for Prabhu to come back. Before that, Vancha Kalpadurubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patita Nan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Nama Ananta Koti Vaishnav Jai Srila Prabhupada Jai Namacharya Haridas Thakur Jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. We'll just wait for 1 minute. Till then, probably if it's fine, we'll just go through the shloka. Nimnaganam yata ganga devanam achyuto yata vaishnavanam yata sambhu purananam idam tata. Hare Krishna, come let's all of us chant. This is one of Prabhupada's verses, favorite verses. Nirnaganam yata ganga devanam achyuto yata vaishnavanam yata shambhu purananam itam tata.
Nirnaganam yata ganga devanam achyuto yata vaishnavanam yata shambhu.
Nimnaganam yata ganga devanam achyuto भक्ता वैष्णवानां यथा शम्भु पुराणानामिदं तथा
निम्नगानां यथा गङ्गा देवानामच्युतो यथा वैष्णवानां यथा शम्भो पुराणानामिदं तथा
निम्नगानां यथा देवानां यच्युतो यथा वैष्णवानां यथा शम्भु पुराणानामिदं तथा
निम्नगाना
यथा गङ्गा Hare Krishna. This one also we did. Hare Krishna. Om Tat Sat. Srimad Bhagavatam Puranam Amalam Yet Vaishnavanam Priyam Yasmin Paramahamsamekam Amalam Jnanam Param Giyate Tatra Jnana Viragya Bhakti Saitam Naishkarmyam Avishkritam Takshinvan Supatan Vicharana Paro Bhaktya Vimuchen Naraha
श्रीमद्भागवतं पुराणममलं
परमहंसाय
ज्ञानं परम
ज्ञान विराग
Srimad Bhagavatam Puranamalam Yet Vaishnavanam Priyam Yasmin Paramamam Samekam Amalam Jnanam Param Giyate Tatra Jnana Viragya Bhakti Saitam Naishkarmyam Avishkritam Takshunvan Supatan Vicharana Paro Bhaktya Vimuchai Naraha
Bhagavatam Puranam
Puranam
Srimad Bhagavatam Puranamalam Yet Vaishnavanam Priyam Yasmin Paramamam Samekam Amalam Jnanam Param Giyate Tatra Jnana Viragya Bhakta Samitam Naishkarmyam Avishkritam Takshunvan Supatan Vicharana Paro Bhaktya Vimuchai Naraha
Bhagavatam Jnanam Param
Nama Sankirtanam Yasya Sarva Papa Pranashanam Pranamo Dukkha Shamanas Tannamami Harim Param
Nama
Sankirtanam Papa
Pranashanam
Pranamo Namami Harim Param
Nama Sankirtanam Yasya Sarva Papa Pranashanam Pranamo Dukkha Shamanas Tannamami Harim Param
Nam
Sankirtanam Yasya Sarva Papa Pranamo Namami Harim Param
Nama Sankirtanam Yasya Sarva Papa Pranashanam Pranamo Dukkha Shamanas Tannamami Harim Param
Sankirtanam yasya sarvapapa pranashanam
Dukkashamanam
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Just, I think Prabhu has not come back. So, any which case, wish you all have a very, very happy Shankarati, happy Pongal. And we will again meet tomorrow.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Where to find the